and please tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I would love to interact with you legends. Now to the story. I matched with him because of his dog. That's how most of my matches happen. Some guy holding up a golden retriever like a trophy. I don't even like dogs that much, but it works. His name was Ryan, and he wasn't bad looking. Scruffy beard, brown flannel, outdoor pics, the whole woodsman thing. Not really my type, but I'd been bored out of my mind and just wanted someone new to talk to. He messaged first, asking what kind of music I liked, and I replied something stupid like, "Whatever doesn't suck." It snowballed from there. He seemed normal. We had a few laughs, joked about our worst dates, and after a couple days of back and forth, he asked if I wanted to hang out. Not a restaurant or bar, though. He suggested we just drive around, maybe hit a drive-thru, and chill out somewhere quiet. Said he knew a spot by the river. Something about how the stars looked crazy from there. I know how dumb this sounds. Meeting some random dude off an app and getting in his car. But I didn't get weird vibes at the time. I even sent his profile and a screenshot of his number to my best friend, just in case. She said he looked like the type to build you a log cabin or murder you in one, but it was meant as a joke. He picked me up at 9. His truck was massive. One of those lifted things with tires as tall as a kid. It smelled like cigarettes and cologne. He had country music on low and some fast food wrappers shoved in the cup holder. I climbed in, made small talk, and we drove toward this spot he kept hyping up. It took about 30 minutes to get there, mostly on back roads, and then another 10 on a dirt trail. Trees swallowed up the sky. At one point, we passed a rusted-out trailer with a busted swing hanging from a branch. I laughed awkwardly and asked if we were still in town. He just grinned and said we were close now. We ended up at a clearing surrounded by trees. No one else in sight. No streetlights. Just the moon and some distant hum of crickets. He turned off the engine, leaned back, and started talking about how he used to come here in high school to clear his head. Then, out of nowhere, he said he brought something cool to show me. I thought it was going to be a flashlight or something dumb like night vision goggles. But he opened the glove compartment and pulled out a handgun. He held it like it was part of him, like muscle memory. I froze, trying to figure out if I should act chill or if this was the part where I needed to open the door and bolt. He saw my face and laughed, told me not to worry, and said he always kept it on him when he was out in the woods. Bears and stuff, he joked. Then he said something I still think about every single day. He said he was going to test my nerves. I remember blinking like I hadn't heard him right. He rolled down the window, leaned his arm out, and pointed the gun downward, toward the dirt outside the truck. Then he pulled the trigger. The sound was louder than anything I've ever heard. It rang in my ears like someone had screamed directly into them. My heart slammed against my ribs. I couldn't tell if I'd actually screamed or just gasped or what, but my hands were gripping the seatbelt like it was going to save me. He laughed again, said I passed. I don't know how to describe the feeling that came next. It wasn't fear exactly. It was like my brain disconnected. My face went hot, and my fingers went numb. I started smiling like a moron, just nodding along to whatever he was saying next, because I didn't want to provoke him. I kept thinking, if I get angry, he might turn that thing on me. He dropped the gun back into the glove box like he'd just finished showing off a magic trick. Then he offered to drive us back. No apology, no my bad, nothing. Just acted like that was a totally normal thing to do on a date. The ride back felt like hours. He talked about the stars, his ex, something about hunting season. I barely said a word. When we got to my street, he slowed down and looked at me with this weird smirk and said I was cooler than most girls. I mumbled something, climbed out of the truck, and didn't look back. I ran inside, locked my door, and threw up in the bathroom. Later that night, he messaged me, said he had fun, asked if I wanted to hang again sometime. I didn't respond. The next day, he unmatched me, probably because I left him on read. Part of me thought I should report him or post about it or tell someone. But what would I even say? Some guy took me to the woods and shot the ground near my foot as a joke. It sounds made up. A few weeks later, I saw his profile again. Different name, same dog, same stupid flannel. I reported it, but who knows if they did anything. Since then, I haven't been on any apps. I deleted them all. I still go out, still meet people, but there's this part of my brain that won't shut off when I'm around someone new. Every laugh makes me wonder what they're really thinking. Every hand gesture, every joke, I overanalyze like it's some test I have to pass to survive. That night didn't end in blood or headlines, but I still wake up some nights hearing that gunshot. Not in my dreams, just in my memory. The dirt exploding near my shoe. The way he looked at me, waiting for me to flinch. And the worst part, I didn't. I should have left when she kept checking her reflection in the toaster. That was the first weird thing. I had just gotten to her flat. She'd invited me over before we headed to this pub she liked. And while I was standing in the kitchen awkwardly trying to figure out where to put my coat, she was staring into the toaster like it was a mirror. Fixing her lip gloss, smirking at herself. I joked about it. She didn't laugh. Her name was Taylor. We met on this dating app I barely used. Her profile said she was into chaotic energy and drinks that burn. Thought it was just a quirky bio thing. She had a bunch of pictures in neon lights, low angles, doing peace signs in toilets and gas stations. I wasn't super into it, but she messaged first, and honestly, I'd had a rough week, so I just went along with it. First few chats were cool. She had this way of talking where everything seemed like a dare. She'd send one-word replies and then drop a voice note that sounded way too flirtatious for the conversation. I found it weirdly addicting. Like I had to earn a proper response from her. So yeah, we agreed to meet. She said she'd pick the place. Told me to wear something not boring. When I showed up, she looked completely different from her photos. Not in a catfish way. Just different. Heavier makeup, shorter hair, more attitude. She walked like she owned the pavement. Smelled like overly sweet perfume. Kept talking really fast, laughing at nothing. Nudging me in the ribs every few seconds like we'd been best friends for years. The pub was one of those loud, dark places with fake candles on the tables and sticky menus. She seemed to know half the people there. Bartender gave her a nod. Some guy near the pool table called out her name, and she waved like she was on a stage. I sat there with a half pint of lager feeling like a prop in someone else's night. She ordered shots before we even sat down properly. She said she didn't like small talk, so she asked stuff like what my biggest secret was and if I'd ever lied about loving someone. I was still on my first drink and already regretting saying yes to this. But part of me wanted to just ride it out. Get a story out of it, at least. About an hour in, it started to spiral. She leaned in close to my ear, whispered something about how boring most guys were, then leaned back and stared at me like I was supposed to react. I laughed awkwardly. She didn't smile. Just downed another shot and looked around the room like she was hunting something. Then she said she was going to the toilet and disappeared into the crowd. I waited. 10 minutes. Then 15. Checked my phone. Opened Instagram, closed it again. Was about to text her when I spotted her near the bar. She wasn't alone. She was kissing some guy. Full on. Hands around his neck. Body pressed right up against his. In the middle of the room, with half the pub watching. She didn't look drunk. She looked deliberate. Calculated. And worst part, she was facing me. She knew I was watching. I stood up, heart in my throat, and walked halfway toward them before stopping. Didn't want to cause a scene. Didn't want to be that guy. I just froze. People started glancing my way. A few even laughed. I felt like I was in some twisted prank show. She pulled away from the guy, wiped her mouth, and walked straight back to me like nothing happened. She asked if I was mad. I didn't say anything. Just stared at her. She smiled, tilted her head, and said she just wanted to see if I'd get jealous. Like that was normal. I left after that. Didn't even finish my drink. Walked out without looking back. She didn't follow. Didn't text. Didn't call. Nothing. Later that night, she posted a story of herself blowing a kiss to the camera with the caption, "He flinched." I wasn't tagged, but I knew it was about me. The next day, I unmatched her, blocked her on everything, and tried to forget it. But it stuck. Not just what she did, but how casual she was about it. Like it was a game. Like I was just some challenge she set for herself that night. A few weeks later, my friend matched with her. Showed me the profile. Same pictures, same vibe. I warned him. He laughed it off. Said he liked crazy girls. He went on the date anyway. Came back saying she asked if he'd be okay with her sleeping with other people, for honesty. He never replied after that. Said something about her licking the rim of every glass on their table before drinking from them. Said she kept calling him the wrong name. I still don't fully understand what her deal was. Maybe she just liked messing with people. Maybe she thought it was funny. Maybe she was hurt once and this was how she coped. Flipping the script, keeping control, making sure she was always the one who walked away first. Or maybe she just didn't care. Either way, that night did something to me. I haven't gone on a first date since. Not properly. I talk to people. I flirt a bit. But when it comes time to actually meet, I freeze. I start picturing the worst-case scenario. I imagine them laughing behind my back, filming me, using me for whatever twisted reason. I'm not scared of rejection anymore. I'm scared of being played like that. Of being used as a punchline. I can't get that look on her face out of my head. Like I was just some background actor in her little show. Jealous. No. Just done. It wasn't even my first choice of place. My date picked it. Said it had good vibes and strong cocktails. I looked it up before going, and the reviews were all over the place. Some saying the food was mid, others saying the staff were rude, but it was either that or cancel. I'd already done my makeup and everything, so I just went along with it. We met on Bumble. His name was Marcus, or at least that's what his profile said. Pictures were decent, nothing over-filtered or gym-obsessed. Mostly selfies in his car or at some food trucks. He had this crooked smile that made him look laid back. His messages were normal too. No weird comments or copy-paste lines. Just casual chatting about TV shows and work and stuff. He said he worked in finance. I didn't really know what that meant, but whatever. When I got to the place, I was actually surprised to see he looked like his pics. That's always a win. He had on this dark green jacket, a bit oversized, and his hair looked like he tried, but not too hard. He gave me this chill smile, and we went in together. The place was dim, kind of loud, but not packed. Booth seating along the sides, bar right at the front, some neon signs flickering above the kitchen. I remember because one of the letters was out, and it just said, Hot URGERS, instead of Hot BURGARS. Anyway, we sat down. I ordered a mojito. He got something brown and bitter. We started talking. It was fine. Nothing special. He didn't ask that many questions about me, just kept telling random stories about his coworkers and how he hated LinkedIn. At one point, he pulled out his phone to show me a meme, and I noticed he had like 10 banking apps. I joked about it. He just smirked and said he liked to keep his money moving. Red flag? Probably. But I was too focused on getting through the evening without it being awkward. After about 40 minutes, I told him I needed to use the restroom. I grabbed my phone, left my purse and jacket on the seat, and walked to the back. The restroom was down this weird hallway near the kitchen. Took a while because there was only one stall and someone was taking forever. I remember scrolling through my texts and telling my friend I was bored and the drinks were overpriced. When I finally got back to the table, my stomach dropped. He was gone. Like, completely gone. No drink. No plate. Nothing. I stood there for a second thinking maybe he went to the bar. Or to the toilet. Or maybe he stepped out for a call. But then I noticed my purse was gone. And my jacket too. Gone. Vanished. Table completely empty like I'd imagined the whole thing. I checked my phone. No message. No missed call. Nothing. I went to the bar, asked the bartender if the guy I was with had said anything before leaving. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Said he didn't even notice anyone leave. Asked if I wanted another drink. I didn't even answer. I was too busy feeling sick. My purse had everything in it. Cards, ID, keys, lip gloss, receipts, the works. It wasn't even expensive or anything. Just a basic black crossbody from Zara, but still. That was my whole night in there. My jacket was a puffer I'd had for 3 years. Not designer, not fancy, but warm and mine. I started calling my bank before I even left the building. Blocked my cards. Froze my account. Tried to stop anything from going through. They told me there'd already been a £78 transaction at some off-license 15 minutes earlier. That was the part that made my hands go numb. He literally left the table, walked out of the bar, and immediately started spending my money. I asked the bar if they had cameras. They said no. I asked if they had any info on him. They said they don't take names for walk-ins. I didn't even know his last name. He wasn't on any socials. I'd checked when we first matched. He said he didn't like social media. I thought it made him sound deep at the time. Now it just meant he was impossible to find. I filed a police report. They said they'd look into it, but let's be real. They didn't have anything to go off. No last name. No license plate. No CCTV. Just a fake first name, a fake story, and a girl with a canceled card and no coat. I went home cold and pissed off. Cried in the Uber. Then cried in my room. Not because of the stuff, but because of the feeling. That sinking feeling of being tricked. I'd been careful. I told my friend where I was. I had my phone. I met him in public. I followed all the dumb rules you're supposed to follow. And he still got me. The worst part. He didn't even have to say anything. He didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Didn't scam me with some long-winded story. He just waited until I left the table, picked up my stuff, and walked out like it was nothing. And nobody stopped him. I ended up replacing everything over the next week. New keys, new cards, new code. But I never went back on the app. I still have it downloaded, for some reason. Haven't opened it since. Every time I walk past that pub now, I get this weird taste in my mouth. Like metal. Or something burnt. The kind of memory that clings to your clothes. I still remember the way his drink looked. I still remember that neon sign. I still remember texting my friend while I was waiting in line for the toilet, not knowing my whole night was already gone. He left with my stuff. But somehow, I'm the one that felt stolen. I still remember how confident I felt walking into that restaurant. Like, for once, everything had lined up right. Got a haircut that actually suited me, my shirt was ironed for once, and she texted me twice that day saying how excited she was to meet. That never happens. Normally, I'm the one chasing, overthinking every emoji, but she seemed genuinely into it. Her name was Alyssa, blonde, wore hoop earrings in all her pics, always holding a glass of wine or pulling some dumb face with her tongue out. She had that hot girl energy without being full of herself, or at least that's how it came across on Hinge. She messaged me first, too. Said I looked weirdly serious in all my photos, and she was curious if I ever smiled. I sent her a selfie with a goofy grin. She replied with heart eyes and a voice note saying I was cute. We talked for about a week before setting up the date. She picked the place, some upscale Italian spot I'd never heard of. I Googled the menu and winced a bit. Starters were like £12 minimum, and mains were all £30 and up. But I figured, screw it, I've wasted money on worse. Plus, she seemed like the type that would ghost if I suggested Nando's. She arrived late, but not by much. 10 minutes, maybe. Walked in like she owned the place. Hair tied up, black dress, nails sharp. She gave me a cheek kiss and dropped into the chair across from me like we'd known each other for months. The confidence was kinda hot. She didn't fumble with her menu or ask dumb questions. She just ordered a glass of white and looked me dead in the eye while she drank it. At first, it was fine. We talked about travel, our worst dates, stupid work stories. She said she worked freelance marketing, but when I asked for what, she just waved her hand and said different brands and moved on. She talked fast, always shifting topics. Like her mind was 3 steps ahead of the conversation. Then came the food. She didn't just order a main. She got starters, then 2 sides for the table, even though I only wanted one. Every time the waiter came around, she acted like she was on some review show, making comments about the presentation, the cutlery, the portion size. She ordered 2 more glasses of wine before my plate even showed up. By the time the main course arrived, I was feeling a bit tense. Not because I didn't like her, but something just felt off. Like I was being watched but not really seen. She barely asked anything about me. Every time I brought something up, she'd nod and steer it back to herself. Her laugh got louder with each drink. She started tapping on her phone under the table between bites. I saw the camera flash once, like she'd just taken a picture of her dish to post. I told myself not to panic. Maybe she was just tipsy. Maybe she just liked being the center of attention. I tried to enjoy my meal. Tried to focus. But the whole thing felt less like a date and more like I was part of some weird test or performance. And then, halfway through dessert, this chocolate thing that cost more than my weekly food shop, she leaned in, said she was going to the bathroom, and winked. She took her bag with her. That should have been the sign. I don't know why I didn't clock it straight away. I even waved as she walked off like a complete idiot. I kept eating, slowly, waiting, scrolling through Instagram. She'd been gone 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. I started getting that tight feeling in my chest. I went to the corridor where the toilets were, checked both doors, waited outside awkwardly. Nothing. Eventually, a waitress passed and asked if I needed anything. I said I was just waiting for my date. She gave me this look like she already knew. I went back to the table. Empty seat, empty glass, bill folded neatly in the middle. £197, plus service charge. I hadn't even seen the last glass of wine get added on. I sat there staring at it like it might vanish if I blinked hard enough. Then I checked my phone. Still nothing. No text. No call. No, hey sorry, or BRB. Just nothing. I paid. With my overdraft. Walked out feeling like someone had pushed me off a building in slow motion. It wasn't even the money that hit hardest. It was the silence. The fact that she just left. Like I didn't exist. Like the whole night was something she did on autopilot and then dipped once she got full. I waited an hour. Sent a text asking if she was okay. No response. Next day, her profile was gone. Not unmatched. Gone. Like she deleted the whole thing. I searched her name. Instagram. Facebook. Nothing. No trace of her. I even posted in a few Reddit threads asking if anyone else had been ditched mid-date. Some people replied with similar stories. One guy said he had the same thing happen, but at a sushi place. Girl left halfway through her third cocktail. It started to feel less like I got ghosted and more like I'd been targeted. Like she planned it. Picked a guy, picked a fancy place, ordered what she wanted, and bailed before the check. No fight. No excuse. Just vanished. I thought about reporting it, but to who? It's not illegal to leave a date. It's not illegal to be a terrible person. I still think about her sometimes. About how calm she was. How fake everything felt. How she never asked anything real. How she dipped like it was part of a script. I still see girls on dating apps that remind me of her, and I swipe left every time. Can't even look at hoop earrings the same way now. I got stuck with a 250 pounds bill. She got a free dinner, and probably another target lined up before the night was even over. And me. Yeah, I just went home with a stomach full of overpriced pasta and a weird feeling I still haven't shaken off. The second he asked if we could sit in his car after dinner, I knew something was off. Not creepy off. Just uneasy off. Like the kind of feeling you get when someone says, "Trust me," and you haven't even asked a question yet. His name was Corey. We matched on Hinge, and the chats were normal. Maybe a bit dry, but he used punctuation, which is rare these days. He called me cool for liking horror movies and said he found it refreshing that I wasn't obsessed with brunch. It was whatever. I wasn't expecting fireworks. I just wanted to meet someone new. He picked the place. Casual, kind of suburban chain restaurant vibe. Not cheap, but not too fancy either. Chicken wings, cocktails, sticky tables. Nothing too formal. I was okay with that. When I got there, he was already at the table. He didn't stand when I arrived, which I clocked right away. He was tall, broad shoulders, beard kind of patchy. Wore a dark polo and kept fiddling with a spoon the whole time. I smiled, said hi, sat down. The start of the date was fine, honestly. He talked a lot. Mostly about his work, something with logistics, moving stuff between warehouses. I wasn't fully listening. I just kept nodding and sipping my drink. He asked about my job, and when I said I worked part-time at a bookstore and did some online courses, he just blinked and moved on. Didn't even ask what I was studying. Somewhere around the main course, I got a text from my cousin. Nothing dramatic, just a photo of her dog wearing sunglasses. I laughed quietly and replied with an emoji. That was the first moment his mood dipped. I could see it in his face. His jaw tightened, and he kind of leaned back like I'd just insulted him. He didn't say anything then, though. Just shifted the conversation to something else, like football or gym memberships. I nodded along again, mostly waiting for it to be over. He didn't finish his food. Kept pushing it around the plate while glancing toward the door. The vibe had gone awkward, but I didn't think much of it. Not every date works out. I figured we'd say our polite goodbyes in the car park and never speak again. Then he offered to walk me to my Uber. But when we got outside, he stopped by his car and leaned against it, arms crossed, smiling like he had a plan. He said it wouldn't hurt to just sit and talk for a few minutes. Said he liked spending time with me and didn't want the night to end on a weird note. That was the phrase he used. I still remember it. Against my better judgment, I said okay. His car was spotless. Like, abnormally clean. No receipts. No fast food wrappers. No clutter. Just a bottle of water in the cup holder and a tiny pine tree air freshener on the mirror. As soon as I sat down, he hit the lock button. Doors clicked. That sound still rings in my ears sometimes. I glanced at him. He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. He tapped the steering wheel for a bit, then turned and stared at me like he was waiting for me to say something. Then, out of nowhere, he asked me why I was texting during dinner. Not in a jokey way. Not like a tease. It was flat. Cold. Like he already knew the answer and just wanted to hear me squirm. I tried to explain it was just a photo of my cousin's dog. Harmless. Stupid. He didn't buy it. Said it was disrespectful. Said he was giving me his full attention and I couldn't even look up from my phone. Said I was rude and immature and fake. He wasn't yelling yet, but his voice started cracking, like something was building. I stayed calm. I didn't argue. I just sat there, frozen, nodding, pretending to listen. My fingers were on my bag, gripping the strap. My brain was already running through worst-case scenarios. He suddenly hit the steering wheel with the palm of his hand hard. Then he shouted, full volume. Words I can't even remember clearly. Accusing me of using him for a free meal. Calling me shallow, fake, attention-seeking. Asking why I even agreed to the date if I was just gonna text other people. My ears were ringing. My pulse was all over the place. I kept glancing at the door handle, wondering if I could unlock it fast enough without setting him off worse. He was gripping the steering wheel like I owed him money. I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. My throat was dry and my chest felt like it had caved in. He stopped yelling eventually. Just went quiet, breathing hard, staring at the dashboard like he was trying to reset himself. That was my moment. I calmly asked if he could let me out. Told him I'd get my Uber from there. Said it was fine. No big deal. I just wanted to head home. He didn't speak. Just hit the unlock button. I got out. Walked fast. Didn't run, but close. Didn't look back until I was halfway down the road. He was still sitting in the car, lights off, just watching. I reported his profile. Blocked his number. I don't know if it did anything. The app didn't even respond. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside my window made me flinch. I kept thinking I'd see his car parked across the street. I kept replaying that locked door sound over and over. That stupid pine air freshener swaying while he screamed at me. It's not just the fear that sticks with you. It's the disbelief. The fact that someone can flip like that. 1 minute you're dipping mozzarella sticks. The next you're locked in a car with someone accusing you of ruining their life because you looked at your phone. And all I could think was how easily it could have gone worse. I knew she was going to be intense, but I didn't expect her to sprint out of a restaurant holding my phone hostage. Her name was Sky. Yeah, that should have been my first clue. Spelled with an E, all lowercase on her dating profile, bio full of emojis, and weird one-liners like drama is just energy in motion. Her pics were wild. One was her sticking out her tongue with blood on her cheek. Another was her in a pink ski mask flipping off the camera. But she was hot. Like, distractingly hot. And I was bored. So I matched. Our chats were quick. Chaotic. She sent me a voice note in the first 5 minutes of matching. Said we should vibe in person, instead of doing the awkward texting game. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity. We met at a burger place downtown. One of those neon-lit, trendy joints where everyone's taking selfies with their milkshakes. She showed up in this oversized football jersey, huge earrings, and glitter on her cheekbones. She looked like she was about to walk into a rave, not a date. She was loud from the second she sat down. Talking fast, throwing fries into her mouth like popcorn, making jokes that didn't land but laughing anyway. I tried to match her energy, but it felt like chasing someone who was already halfway out the door. She'd ask me a question, interrupt my answer, then change the subject. I spent most of the time trying to keep up. It was during the second round of drinks that I made the mistake of putting my phone on the table. Not even in a rude way, just face down, beside my water. She clocked it immediately. She stared at it, then at me. Then, without saying anything, reached across the table, snatched it, stood up, and started walking toward the door. At first, I thought she was joking. I kind of laughed. Thought maybe she was going to pretend she was checking something. Or maybe make some stupid TikTok about stealing my phone. But then she turned around at the door, held it up in the air like a prize, and shouted that if I wanted it back, I had to come to an after-party with her. Just like that. Loud. Everyone heard. 2 girls in the booth next to me giggled. One guy near the bar went, "Yo, what?" I stood there, stunned, like someone had glitched reality in front of me. I walked after her. She was already halfway down the sidewalk. I caught up and asked her what the hell she was doing. She just grinned and said something about earning it. Said I was being boring and needed to loosen up. Said we were going to a party nearby with her friends, and I had no choice now. I asked for my phone back. She held it behind her back. I was stuck. She had my phone. Wallet was in my pocket, but everything else, texts, photos, work stuff, private messages, 2-factor logins, was in her hands. I thought about trying to grab it, but she was faster than she looked, and unpredictable. She started walking again. Fast. I followed. We turned down this alley near a row of clubs, then through a side gate into a courtyard with plastic chairs and fairy lights. About 6 people were already there, some sitting on the ground, others leaning against the wall smoking. They all looked like they'd been there for hours. Empty bottles. Loud music from a portable speaker. Someone was throwing glow sticks at a dumpster. She walked in like she owned the place. Introduced me to no one. Just flopped into a beanbag chair and pulled out a vape. I stood there like a lost kid. Then she waved my phone in the air again and told me I could have it when the vibe felt right. At this point, I was done playing along. I walked over and asked for it again. Firm, not rude. She pouted. Literally pouted. Said I was killing the mood. Said if I wanted to leave so bad, I could just go. Except I couldn't. Because she still had it. She got up, walked to the edge of the courtyard, and stood by the gate like she was daring me to chase her. I didn't move. I just stood there staring at her. One of her friends, some guy in a denim vest with scribbles all over it, asked if I was okay. I ignored him. Then, finally, she tossed me the phone. Underhand, like a tennis ball. It hit the ground. I picked it up. No cracks, but my heart was thumping so hard it felt like my ears were pulsing. She giggled. Said something about how I passed the test. I didn't say anything. Just turned and left. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I was on the main road. Didn't breathe properly until I was in an Uber with the door locked and my phone clutched in both hands like it was gold. I blocked her that night. Deleted the app the next morning. She still pops into my head sometimes. Not because I miss her, but because I wonder how many other guys got dragged into whatever that was. How many phones she's grabbed. How many nights she's turned into power plays for her own amusement. It wasn't just chaotic. It was calculated. Like she got off on dangling control over people for sport. She didn't want a date. She wanted an audience. And I played the part. Never again. It started off boring. Like, painfully boring. I met him on one of those newer apps that everyone pretends they don't use but secretly do. His name was Ethan. Brown hair, backwards cap in every picture, one where he held up a fish and another in front of a cracked mirror. But his bio made me laugh, and I was in one of those moods where I'd talk to anyone just for the distraction. He wasn't charming, not even close. But he replied fast and didn't start with something gross, which is rare enough these days. He kept saying he vibed with my energy, whatever that means. I wasn't expecting much, just figured maybe I'd get a free drink and a story out of it. We agreed to meet at this little outdoor cafe near the train station. Bright orange chairs, tiny tables. The type of place that plays lo-fi music and writes the menu in chalk. I got there early. He showed up exactly on time. Putty, messy beard, scuffed trainers. He looked like someone who only owned 2 pairs of socks. He barely said hello before sitting down. Didn't ask how I was. Didn't compliment anything. Just jumped into this weird rant about how apps are rigged and how real connections are rare now. I smiled politely and stirred my coffee, hoping he'd burn through whatever that speech was and calm down. But no, he kept going. His voice was flat, like he was just unloading stuff on me, not actually talking to me. I tried to check my phone under the table. Not to be rude, just to glance at the time and text my friend that you can fake call me in 15 if I text the word Q&A warning. Before I could even hit send, he leaned forward and said something about how I was already distracted. I made a joke to lighten the mood. He didn't laugh. Just looked at my phone, then at me, and said I must be really addicted to it. I put it face down on the table. Big mistake. A few minutes later, while I was sipping my drink and staring off at a pigeon doing something weird near the bin, he suddenly reached across the table and grabbed my phone. Just full-on snatched it. Quick, like he practiced. I blinked, not even processing it at first. I thought he was joking. I held out my hand like, haha, give it back now. But he didn't laugh. He slipped it under his chair and leaned back, folding his arms, looking way too satisfied with himself. Then he said it. That if I wanted it back, I had to give him a kiss. He even said it like it was casual. Like he thought it was some flirty little game. Like I should have found it cute. I laughed. Like a nervous, short, what the hell is happening laugh. I told him to stop messing around. But his face didn't change. He just sat there, watching me. Then he started talking about boundaries and how he thought it was fair. That if he was giving his time and attention, I should be willing to reciprocate. I looked around. The place wasn't packed, but there were people nearby. A couple at the next table, some guy scrolling on his laptop a few feet away. I thought about calling for help, but I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted my phone and to be gone. I asked again, calmly. Told him I needed it. Said I had messages I was waiting on. That I had to go soon. He kept shaking his head, smiling like he was in control of everything now. Then he had the audacity to say that he could tell I was the type who likes being chased. That I probably got off on teasing guys and ghosting them. That I owed him a kiss for not being like the other guys who message with one-word texts and ugly mirror pics. I froze. It wasn't even about the kiss anymore. It was the fact that he thought any of this was normal. That he thought he was being romantic. That stealing someone's phone and holding it hostage for physical attention was somehow a cute move. I took a deep breath and stood up. I walked around the table slowly, not saying anything. Just acting calm. I knelt down next to his chair like I was playing along. Like I was about to lean in and give him what he wanted. Then I snatched the phone from under the chair leg and stepped back so fast I almost tripped over one of those tiny cafe stools. He jumped up, but I'd already turned away. I started walking. Fast. He called after me. Didn't yell, just said my name once, like I'd forgotten something. I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. I crossed the road without checking the light and ducked into the first shop I saw, some weird stationery place. I stood between two shelves of notebooks and finally looked at my phone. No cracks. No weird notifications. Just a weird sinking feeling in my stomach and 100 thoughts running at once. He texted me later. Said I overreacted. Said he thought it was funny. Said I was uptight. I blocked him. Reported him. Deleted the app the next day. And for weeks after that, I couldn't leave my phone on the table in front of anyone. Even friends, even family. It's like I developed this reflex. Keep it close. Keep it protected. Like it had suddenly become a piece of me that someone had tried to take away, just to prove a point. It wasn't just about a phone. It was about someone deciding I didn't get a choice. And the worst part is, he probably did it before. She messaged me first. That's kinda what reeled me in. I wasn't used to that. Her name was Alina, and her profile was chill. Normal photos, decent smile, nothing crazy. One was her with a dog, another with some trees in the background, and one where she was sitting at a coffee shop wearing a scarf too big for her neck. The bio just said, real connections only. Sounded cliché, but I'd seen worse. She was super sweet over text. Always replying fast, sending long messages, asking deep questions. Stuff like, what's your biggest fear? And do you believe in fate? I didn't take it too seriously. Figured she was just one of those overthinkers that romanticize everything. We talked for about a week. Then she asked to meet. I picked this little quiet Thai place just outside the city. Cheap, low-key, not loud. Seemed like a safe first date type of vibe. She said she'd never been there, but loved the idea of trying something new. When she showed up, I knew something was off straight away. She was already waiting at a table when I walked in, and the first thing I noticed was this big scrapbook sitting next to her glass of water. Not a phone, not a bag, just a big, chunky, decorated scrapbook, like something you'd find in a kid's bedroom. Stickers all over the cover, random glitter glued to the corners. She saw me, stood up, smiled like she was reuniting with someone after years apart, and pulled me in for a weirdly tight hug. I sat down. The first 5 minutes were okay. Just the usual awkward small talk. She complimented my shirt, said it looked better in person than in my Instagram photos. That's when I kinda froze for a second. I hadn't given her my Instagram. She kept going, though. Said she loved how my dog looked in the snow. Mentioned how funny my Halloween costume was 2 years ago. Then asked if my sister still lived in Birmingham. I hadn't even told her I had a sister. I asked how she knew all that. She smiled and pointed to the scrapbook. I swear, I've never felt my stomach drop so fast in my life. She slid it across the table like it was a gift. Told me she made it for us. Said it was just something fun she put together to celebrate our connection. I didn't touch it at first. I just stared at it. She opened it for me. Page 1 was a screenshot of my dating profile. Photos, prompts, the whole thing, cut out and glued in next to stickers of hearts and keys and stuff. She'd written, the day we found each other, in thick black marker at the top. Page 2 was a photoshopped picture of me and her at a beach. I'd never been to that beach, and I definitely wasn't standing next to her in that photo. But the edit was surprisingly clean, like she'd put real effort into it. I blinked and just stared at my own face pasted next to hers like we were some influencer couple. Page 3 was even worse. It was an edit of a photo from my brother's wedding, one I'd posted on Facebook last summer. She'd cropped out the bride and put herself in the dress. The veil. Everything. I felt like my brain short-circuited. She kept flipping. Each page was more messed up than the last. Us on a fake holiday. Us celebrating a fake anniversary. Us in a hospital room with a baby. She even glued a piece of pink fabric to the baby photo and wrote, maybe one day, next to it. All the photos came from my socials, some public, some buried deep. She even used a few from my friends' pages that I'd only been tagged in. I finally asked her, calm, confused, why she did all this. She looked at me like I was the crazy one. Said she felt the spark from the first message. That she knew we were meant to be. That I was her soulmate, and this was just fun proof of our journey. I couldn't speak. My throat literally locked up. Then she got quiet. Like too quiet. She leaned in and said she'd been waiting for someone like me for a long time. That most guys never gave her a chance to show her heart. But I was different. I felt my legs tensed under the table. My hand slid into my coat pocket, reaching for my phone. I told her I needed to use the bathroom. She looked sad when I stood up. Like I was walking out on a movie halfway through. She said she'd wait. That she had more surprises in the scrapbook. I walked straight out of the restaurant. Didn't look back. Didn't slow down. I turned the corner and kept going until I reached the main road, then called a taxi. She messaged me 20 minutes later, said I'd ruined the moment. That she should have known better. Then sent a photo of one of the scrapbook pages, the wedding one, and just wrote, it still could have been real. I blocked her. Deleted the app. Changed my profile pic on everything. For weeks after that, I kept my accounts locked and checked behind me every time I left my building. I never saw her again, but part of me wonders if she still has that scrapbook, if she's added new pages, if there are other guys who flipped through it and seen their faces stuck next to hers. Or maybe I was the first. Either way, I'll never forget the way she smiled when she said soulmate, like she actually believed it wasn't the first time she'd met me. I had a weird gut feeling before I even sat down. It was one of those chain diners with booths that always feel a little too sticky, no matter how clean they look. Red vinyl seats, fake plants in the corners, everything smelling like microwaved cheese. I picked it because he said he wanted somewhere chill, no pressure. That's the vibe he gave off in our chats. Laid back, low maintenance, kind of shy but funny. Name was Dan. Pretty basic profile. Hoodie in every pic. Smile that looked more like a smirk. Said he worked in tech, but never gave details. I was already there when he showed up, 10 minutes late. He walked in fast, looking around like he thought someone else might be watching. Hoodie on, hands in his pockets, hair kind of messy in that I woke up like this on purpose way. He slid into the booth and apologized for being late, mumbled something about traffic. I said it was fine, even though it wasn't really. First impressions are hard to recover from, and he already seemed a little distracted. The start of the date wasn't awful, just awkward. He talked with his hands a lot and kept fiddling with the salt shaker. Every time he told a story, he'd trail off halfway through and change the subject. Like he couldn't hold a straight thought. He asked what I did, and I told him I worked retail part-time and was studying part-time too. He said that was cool, but didn't ask anything else. Instead, he started talking about his mom. Like, a lot. Said she had heart problems. Said she'd been in and out of hospitals the past year. Mentioned it like 3 times in 20 minutes. At first I thought maybe he was just venting, but it started to feel like a setup. Like he was testing how sympathetic I was. We ordered food. I got a burger. He got pancakes. For dinner. I asked if he was a breakfast for dinner type, and he said, it's cheaper. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. He didn't laugh back. Halfway through the meal, right when I was cutting into my burger, he suddenly grabbed his phone and looked at it like something terrible had just popped up. He stared at it for a full 30 seconds without saying anything. Then he looked at me, all panicked, and said his mom was in the hospital again. He said she'd collapse, that it was serious, life-threatening. I blinked. Like, I didn't know what to say. We'd been sitting there 25 minutes. Now he was saying he had to leave right then. Said he needed to get to the hospital an hour away. Said he came straight from work and barely had any gas left. Then he asked me, quietly, if I could spot him some money for fuel. Said he'd pay me back that night. Swore he wasn't that kind of guy. Said he just needed help getting there. I didn't even have time to react before he was already standing up. Just like that. Didn't wait for the bill. Didn't ask if I was okay. Just stood there, putty half-sipped, hands trembling like he was gonna cry. I didn't want to be heartless, so I pulled out a 20 and handed it to him. He took it like it hurt to do it. Then he leaned down, said he'd text me the second he got there, and rushed out the door. I sat there. For a long time. Like, way longer than I should have. I watched my fries go cold. I finished the burger in silence. The waitress came over and asked if I needed the bill for both meals. I said yeah. I paid. No text came. No, I made it. No, thanks again. Nothing. I waited until I got home. Still nothing. So I messaged him. No reply. An hour passed. I called. Went straight to voicemail. I checked his profile. Gone. Not unmatched, deleted. Like he never existed. That's when it clicked. There was no hospital visit. There was no emergency. He'd done this before, probably more than once. I went back and looked at our messages from earlier in the week. There were weird signs. He always asked about where I lived, what area I was in. Kept pushing for early dinner instead of evening. Always said he was tight on money right now, and would explain later. It wasn't about dating. It was a hustle. Meet someone, play the sympathy card, fake a crisis, and vanish with whatever you could get. $20 isn't life-changing. But it was the way he did it that messed with my head. How calm he was at first. How easy it came to him. How rehearsed the whole thing felt once I looked back. I felt stupid. And then I felt angry. Not just because of the money, but because I'd sat across from someone who turned human decency into a scam, who used his own imaginary mom as a prop. I never reported it. Didn't feel like it would go anywhere. No last name, no trace. Just a burner profile and a well-practiced story. He walked out of that diner with my cash and probably went straight to the next girl. And me? I deleted the app that night. Threw the receipt in the trash. And sat in the shower way too long, replaying that stupid moment where I handed him the money like I was doing something kind. So yeah, I matched with a girl who told me I was gonna die. Not like metaphorically. Not like haha dead inside. No, she looked me straight in the eye and said I had 3 weeks left, while holding a tarot card. It was probably the weirdest date I've ever been on, and that's saying a lot considering one girl made me hold her purse while she stole silverware. Anyway, her name was Meadow. Yeah, Meadow. Like the field. Her profile was full of crystals and moon emojis and pictures of her holding smoke bundles in front of mirrors. Her bio just said, intuitively led, which honestly should have made me swipe left, but I was bored. She had this look that was hard to explain. Messy hair, black eyeliner that looked like it had been smudged by crying, and that dead serious expression in all her pics. Like a model for sad witch starter kits. I matched her for the story. Didn't expect anything real to come from it. But she messaged first. Said I had chaotic air energy. I had no clue what that meant, but it made me laugh. We ended up chatting for a few days. Her texts were kind of cryptic. Talked about signs and dreams and how she used to astral project as a kid. But she wasn't annoying about it. Just weird. In a fun way. I figured worst case, she'd bring crystals. Best case, maybe she'd be interesting. We decided to meet at this dim little tea shop she picked downtown. One of those indie places where everything's mismatched and the menu's handwritten. The tables were small and the music was slow and echoey, like someone humming into a tunnel. She showed up in a long black coat with rings on every finger and a scarf that looked like a curtain. She smelled like cinnamon and something kind of burnt. I complimented her scarf. She said it used to belong to someone important. Didn't ask. We got tea. She didn't touch hers. Just kept swirling it around and watching the liquid like she was waiting for it to form letters or something. I tried to keep the conversation light. Asked about her job, her cat. She had one named Orb. What shows she liked. She'd give half answers, then follow up with something completely unrelated. Like she'd say, I don't really watch Netflix, and then suddenly go, do you ever feel like something's watching you when you sleep? I laughed nervously. She didn't. About halfway through the date, she pulled a little cloth pouch out of her bag and set it on the table. She asked if I wanted a reading. I thought it was a joke. I said sure. She untied the pouch and poured out a stack of black-edged tarot cards with little gold symbols on them. She fanned them out, told me to pick 3. I picked the ones closest to me, just to keep things moving. She turned over the first one and nodded. Turned over the second and tilted her head. Turned over the third and went completely silent. Her face dropped. Like not dramatically. Just slowly. She sat there, staring at the cards, and then looked at me with the weirdest mix of pity and curiosity, like I was a dog with 2 heads. I asked what it said. She said I didn't want to know. So of course I asked again. She took a breath, pointed at the 3rd card, this creepy skeletal figure holding a lantern, and calmly told me it was a sign of death. Not like change or new beginnings, or whatever people usually say when they pull that card. She said it straight. Literal. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, I think you'll die in about 3 weeks. Just like that. Same tone you'd use to tell someone the Wi-Fi is down. I froze, smiled, waited for the punchline. There wasn't one. She said she could feel it. That my energy was heavy and flickering. That it reminded her of someone she knew in high school who died in a motorbike crash. She said the last person she pulled that card for didn't make it to their next birthday. I stared at my tea, suddenly unsure if she'd put something in it. I asked her what kind of death. She shrugged. Said it wasn't clear. Could be sickness. Could be violence. Could be fate catching up. She said it usually happens when people ignore the signs. Then she smiled. Smiled. And asked if I wanted to go back to her place and burn sage. I made an excuse. Said I had to go pick something up. She nodded and said, I understand. Then told me not to ignore the tugs in my chest, whatever that meant. I walked out with my heart pounding. Checked my reflection in every shop window on the way home. Checked my pulse. Googled the meaning of the card she pulled. Every site said it could mean death, but mostly meant endings or transformation. Still didn't help. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. The way she said it. How confident she looked. Like she knew. Like it wasn't just a reading. It was a countdown. Over the next few days, I started noticing every weird thing. A close call crossing the road. My phone glitching randomly. A door that nearly slammed on my hand. My car making a noise it hadn't made before. My brain started to spiral. Like, what if she was right? What if this was one of those final destination situations? What if every second that passed was just getting me closer to something awful? She messaged me once. Said she hoped I found peace with whatever's coming. I didn't reply. It's been 3 weeks exactly since the date. Still here. Still breathing. But I'm not gonna lie. I check over my shoulder a little more now. I flinch when I hear sirens. I sleep with the hallway light on. And somewhere in the back of my head, her voice repeats itself like a scratched-up record. About 3 weeks. I don't know if she believed it. I don't even know if she was serious. But something about the way she said it, it stuck to me, got inside me, like a virus in my thoughts. I've had bad dates before. But that one followed me home. It started like any other date. A bit of nerves. A bit of overthinking. Nothing that set off alarms. I even remember telling myself this one feels normal, which now just makes me roll my eyes. His name was Jason. Pretty average profile. Black hoodie, festival wristbands, a couple group photos where he was the least blurry. His bio just said, writer plus overthinker. Let's talk conspiracy theories or order fries, which felt harmless enough. He messaged me first, just said, hey, followed by a frog emoji. Weird, but not offensive. So I replied. Our chats were decent. He was kind of sarcastic, which I like, and he didn't overuse emojis or try too hard. He asked a lot of questions, but nothing too deep. Stuff like favorite movies, if I liked camping, if I'd ever broken a bone. He said he liked mysteries, was working on a novel, and had a thing for faces. That one felt a bit odd, but I brushed it off. We planned to meet at this bar that's tucked behind a flower shop. You have to walk through the fake florist display to get to it, which makes it feel kind of secret and cool. He said he'd never been and trusted my taste. Points for that, I guess. When I got there, he was already sitting near the back with a drink in front of him. I was 2 minutes early, and he was already halfway done. He stood when I arrived, which was nice, but didn't smile much. Just this kind of twitchy look like he was sizing me up. I ordered my drink, and we started talking. It was awkward at first. He didn't make eye contact much, just kept glancing at his glass and tapping his fingers on the table. But then, out of nowhere, the vibe shifted. He said something about my job. Not general, not like, so what do you do, but specific. He said the name of the place I work, the actual company, the exact one. The one I never mentioned on the app or in messages. It's not even listed on my socials. I kind of laughed and asked how he knew that. He paused, like he didn't realize he'd said something weird. Then he just said, "Oh, I think you might have mentioned it." But I hadn't. I know I hadn't. I brushed it off. Maybe I'd slipped. Maybe it came up somehow. But I felt my stomach twist a little. We kept talking. I tried to stay present, tried not to spiral. He asked about hobbies, music, random things like whether I preferred sunrises or sunsets. It was fine. Then he said my sister's name. Like casually dropped it in the middle of a sentence. Maybe you and my sister's name should check that place out too. I went cold. He said it like it was normal. Like we'd all known each other for years. But my sister's name isn't common, and she's not on my dating profile. She's not even in my most recent photos, and I definitely never brought her up in any chat with him. I asked him, flat out, how he knew that. He laughed, said he must have seen it in a comment somewhere. Probably your Facebook or something, he said. But my Facebook is private. Like, locked. My full name isn't even visible unless I accept your request. He must have seen my full name somehow, or searched for it, dug around. That's when I realized he hadn't just found me on an app. He looked for me. I sat back and stared at my drink. Suddenly, every word he said after that sounded different, like it was coming through a filter, like I couldn't trust any of it. He kept talking, telling a story about a weekend hike, but I wasn't listening. I was watching his hands, his face, the way he tilted his head between sentences like he was waiting for a reaction. My hands were sweaty. I glanced at the exit. Thought about texting my friend the code word we'd agreed on before the date. But I didn't want to show panic. I didn't want to make it obvious that I'd clocked him. I asked if he wanted to step outside for air. He said sure. We walked out the side door and stood near the fake flower wall, just out of view of the bar. I told him I was going to grab something from my bag. My hands were shaking. I pretended to fumble with a zipper. Then I said I had to use the bathroom. I didn't go back. I walked straight out, called a car, and waited with my back against the wall by the florist display. I kept watching the door, waiting to see if he'd follow. He didn't. But as my ride pulled up, I got a message. From him. It said, "Sorry if I made you uncomfortable. I'd just like to know things." I blocked him right there. The next day, I found a new message request on my work email. No subject line. Just a link. I didn't click it. I reported his profile. Told the app everything. I don't know if they took it seriously. It's been a few months. No more emails. No more messages. But sometimes I still check around me when I leave work. I glanced at every car on my street twice. I change my profile pictures every few weeks and don't tag locations anymore. And every time I go on a nap now, I feel like I'm being watched. Like someone's collecting pieces of me, building a version of me in their head. One they think they're entitled to. Jason knew too much. And the scariest part, he acted like it was no big deal.
I showed up 10 minutes early. That's the part that annoys me the most. I could have just been late. I could have taken a different train. I could have bailed entirely when I saw the profile pic was just half a face and a sunflower. But no, I was early. All eager. Like some idiot. Her name was Danny. That's what she said, anyway. I never got a last name. Her bio said she was just looking for a vibe, which doesn't really mean anything, but whatever. Her pictures weren't that cleared, just filters, side angles, a mirror selfie with a flash covering her face, but she seemed fun in the chat. Said she loved oat milk, rainy days, and sitting on rooftops listening to sad music. Very Pinterest core. We only talked for a couple days before she asked to meet. She picked the spot. A coffee shop in a busy little area, one of those places with exposed brick walls and menus written in looping white marker on blackboards. I looked it up beforehand, looked all right. Casual. Felt safe. I got there early and sat on the bench outside. Checked my phone. No texts yet. I looked inside and scanned the tables. That's when I saw her. She wasn't alone. She was sitting with 3 other people, 2 girls and 1 guy. They were all bunched into a booth, all wearing dark hoodies, all looking up at me like they were expecting me. I kind of froze. Checked my phone again. No message saying she was bringing friends. No heads up. Just her last text from the night before. 2 p.m. works. I'll be wearing green less than 3. And she was wearing green. A neon green sweater, actually. Kind of cropped, long sleeves that covered her hands. She gave me a little wave, didn't get out. I walked in slowly, confused. The guy slid over and motioned for me to sit next to him, like this was some kind of group interview. I didn't want to be rude, so I sat. Danny smiled like we were already old friends. The other 2 girls stared at me, wide-eyed like they were studying something under a microscope. I tried to introduce myself. The guy didn't even look at me. Just said he was thirsty. That's when it started. Danny pointed to the chalkboard menu and said something about how the drinks there were mad expensive. Then she tilted her head and said it would be sweet if I covered everyone's order. Said she didn't bring her wallet, and her friends were kind of broke right now. She smiled when she said it, almost like it was cute, like this was just how dates worked now. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. The guy next to me turned and repeated it, said I should be a gentleman and pay. The other girls nodded like they were in a music video or something. One of them reached across the table and tapped my arm like she was trying to sweet-talk me into it. The guy shifted in his seat so I was boxed in, one leg blocking me from sliding out. It felt weird, like a setup, like they'd done this before. I said I didn't mind getting her drink, but I wasn't paying for everyone. I tried to say it politely, still trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this was a test. Maybe they were just messing around. The guy laughed under his breath. Then he leaned in and said, "You think you're the first." That was the line that made it all click. This wasn't just a joke. This was a thing. A scam. A game. Whatever you want to call it. They'd lure people in. Met at public spots. Surrounded them. Pressured them into footing the bill. Make it uncomfortable enough, and maybe the person caves. Maybe they pay just to get it over with. I told them I needed to use the bathroom. Danny pouted and said, "Don't take too long." I walked straight out the door. Didn't look back. Didn't run. Just walked like I meant it, phone in hand. Keys already out, like I had somewhere way more important to be. I got around the corner before I heard someone shout. I didn't stop. I didn't even check my phone until I got home. There was a text from her waiting. Just said, "Now chill." Could have just said no. I blocked her. Later, I looked her profile up again using a burner account. She changed the name. New bio. Same half-face photo. Same sunflower. That's when I knew it wasn't just her. It was all four of them. Probably running the scam over and over again, switching profiles, changing names, trying their luck with whoever swiped right. Public places, group intimidation, guilt trip tactics. I never thought I'd have to plan an exit strategy for a coffee date. But now, every time I agree to meet someone for the first time, I check the location twice. I ask if they're coming alone. I get there late on purpose. I keep my card in a separate pocket. I don't sit down right away. I don't order first. And if someone says they forgot their wallet, I'm out. I still think about the guy's face when he said that line. "You think you're the first?" Like it was just another step in a routine. Like he knew I'd either fold or run. He thought he had me trapped. He didn't. But someone else might not be so lucky. It was supposed to be just one drink. That's what I told myself on the way there. The bar was dim, loud, but not unbearable. The kind of place with fake candles on the tables and random old movie posters taped to the walls. A Humphrey Bogart print sat crooked above the jukebox. The kind of spot you go to for the atmosphere more than the drinks. I hadn't been on a date in a while, so I figured this would ease me back into it. Something public. Casual, low risk. His name was Luke. Undan Bumble. He had good photos. Black leather jacket, motorbike in one, dog in another. The kind of curated masculinity that comes off effortless if you don't look too closely. His bio was short but funny. He said he hated brunch culture and had excellent taste in cereal. It made me laugh when I first read it. The chats weren't anything incredible, but they were normal, polite. He replied quickly but not obsessively, and never pressured me to meet sooner. No crude jokes, no bizarre openers, no love bombing like half the guys out there. He seemed chill. And at this point in my dating life, chill was good enough. We set drinks for Thursday night after work. When I walked in, he was already at the bar. Not just there, 2 drinks in. I could tell right away from the way his voice carried, a little too loud, his body loose but twitchy. A whiskey glass sat nearly empty in front of him, and another one already waiting. He stood when I approached, which caught me off guard. Most guys don't. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. They stayed locked on me a fraction too long, like he was scanning me for flaws. Not in a flattering way, more like he was measuring. "Gin and tonic," he told the bartender before I could even sit down. I didn't mind. It's a safe bet. But I noted it. He started talking right away. Fast-paced, like he had a list of things to unload before I could get a word in. His job? Tech support. Hates it, but it pays the bills. Dumb customers, routers, people who don't know the difference between reboot and reset. His opinions about brunch. His hatred of anyone who calls themselves an empath. I sipped my drink, nodding along, trying to squeeze in a question here or there. He plowed over every attempt, not aggressively, just obliviously, like he didn't notice I had a voice at all. 15 minutes in, he flagged the bartender. Another round. I hadn't even finished my first. I held up my glass, still half full. I'm good for now. And that's when it shifted. His face changed, barely but enough. The smile collapsed. His eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened. He muttered something under his breath. "What was that?" I asked. He laughed, but it was sharp. Nothing, just weird, not wanting to match my energy. I forced a smile. I'm just pacing myself. Another mutter. Louder this time, but not words I caught. Then he turned his head away, stared at the wall, back at me, stared longer. I felt my stomach knot. And then, before I could even register the motion, he picked up his glass, half full of whiskey, and hurled it at the wall. Hard. The sound was deafening. The glass shattered against a framed poster right behind me, a violent crack followed by a rain of shards hitting the floor, bouncing onto the table, some sliding into my lap. The entire bar froze. Music still played from the jukebox, but every voice dropped out. A waitress ducked instinctively. Someone near the door shouted, "Jesus Christ." And Luke? He stood up, muttered something I couldn't hear, and stormed out. No apology, no explanation. Straight through the crowd, shoving past people out the front door. I sat there rigid, pulse hammering, chin trembling in my hand. A few tiny cuts stung along my wrist where glass had nicked me. A woman at the next table leaned over. "Are you okay?" I nodded, but my voice didn't come out. The bartender hurried over, wide-eyed, apologizing even though it wasn't their fault. "We're calling someone to clean this up. Do you need ice? Bandages?" I shook my head, still buzzing with adrenaline. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I forced myself to pay for my drink, slipped out into the night air. Outside, the street felt sharper than before, colder. My hands shook as I pulled my jacket tight. I scanned up and down the block, terrified I'd see him lurking. A silhouette under a streetlight, his bike engine revving in the dark. But nothing. Just strangers, cars, neon buzzing. I called an Uber, staring at the screen like it was a lifeline, heart pounding until the car pulled up. The ride was silent. The driver asked how my night was, and I said, fine, because I couldn't think of anything else. At home, I locked every door, every window. I kept replaying it in my head. Not just the crash of glass, that sudden eruption, but the lead-up. The way his mood flipped like a switch. 1 second, I was politely turning down a drink. The next, he was exploding, shattering glass inches from my face. And the strangest part, it felt rehearsed. Not impulsive. Not drunken clumsiness. Deliberate. Like maybe this wasn't the first time. Like maybe he did this often, at bars, at restaurants, on dates, and then just walked out as if nothing happened. Later that night, I checked his profile again. Still up, still active. Same jacket, same motorbike, same serial joke. I reported it. Wrote everything I could in the little box they gave me. No idea if it mattered. He never messaged me again. Didn't block me. Didn't delete me. Just silence. And for weeks afterward, whenever I went anywhere public, I caught myself scanning the room the way he had scanned me that night, watching for shifts in tone, for eyes that didn't smile, for drinks gripped too tight in a hand. It wasn't just one drink. It was a reminder that sometimes low risk isn't low risk at all. If I'd parked on the street instead of the lot, this probably wouldn't have happened. But I wanted to play it cool. Didn't want to show up to a first date all sweaty from walking. So yeah, I pulled into the little underground spot beneath a cafe, locked my car, and stuck my keys in my jacket pocket. Didn't think twice. Her name was Leela. Her profile was all smiles and filters. Every pic looked like it was taken during golden hour. She had this one where she was holding a melting ice cream cone and giving the camera this half smirk like she was up to something. Her bio was just try me, and somehow I did. She messaged first. Just said, "You look tall." I replied with something dumb like taller than average doors, and she laughed, and that was enough for a conversation. She asked if I liked sweet or salty popcorn, if I ever kissed on a first date, if I'd ever stolen anything. Just random stuff. She came off a little flirty, but nothing crazy. She was sarcastic, said weird things in a deadpan tone, and I kind of liked that. So I asked her to meet up. She picked a place, a coffee shop that turns into a wine bar at night. I figured it was a safe middle ground. Public. Comfortable. Did enough to not feel awkward, but not loud enough to yell over each other. When I got there, she was already sitting at a corner table, legs crossed, nursing something red in a glass. She wore all black, low-cut top, rings on every finger, hair up in a messy twist like she hadn't even tried, but still looked sharp. She smiled when I walked over and told me to sit. Didn't get up. Didn't say much at first. Just looked at me like she was trying to figure something out. I sat down and set my phone and keys on the table. Ordered a drink, started talking. At first, she didn't say much. Just let me ramble. About work, movies, random stuff. She'd tilt her head sometimes like she was interested. Other times she'd zone out, then snap back into it with a weird grin. About 20 minutes in, she leaned forward, grabbed my keys without warning, and tucked them right into her bra like it was the most normal thing in the world. I laughed, assuming it was a joke. But she didn't laugh. She sat back, arms crossed, still smiling, and said I could have them back if I gave her a real kiss. Not a peck, not a goodbye kiss, a real one. I blinked, thought maybe I'd misheard her. Maybe she was drunk. Maybe this was some twisted flirting game. I joked back, trying to make light of it, but she just kept staring at me, lips pressed tight like she was daring me to try and say no. I said that wasn't funny. She said she wasn't joking. I looked around. The place wasn't packed, but there were enough people around. Waitstaff. A couple of groups. I thought about just grabbing my keys back, but how was I supposed to do that without making it weird or causing a scene? She leaned in again and whispered something I didn't quite catch. Something about proving I wasn't boring. Then she sat back and waited. I didn't move. My drink sat untouched. My mouth was dry. I asked again, calmly, for my keys. She giggled. Said I was such a safe boy. Said maybe I'd get them back if I did something unsafe. She was playing some kind of power game. I could feel it. This wasn't about kissing. It was about control. I stood up and asked for them again. She tilted her head and said, "You're not going anywhere." Smiled like it was a joke, but her fingers stayed tight against her chest like she was protecting a lottery ticket. That's when I realized this was planned. Or if not planned, then rehearsed. She wanted me to lose my cool, to beg, to try and force it, to freak out and embarrass myself. She wanted something to happen. Instead, I walked to the counter and asked for the manager. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just explained that the girl I was sitting with took my car keys and refused to give them back. That I didn't feel comfortable. That I wanted help getting them returned without escalating anything. The manager, older guy, looked exhausted, walked over with me. Leela saw us coming and instantly pulled the keys out like nothing happened. Smiled, handed them over. "Just joking," she said. Like it was all a bit of fun. The manager looked at me, then back at her, then said we should probably call it a night. I nodded. I left. She didn't follow. Didn't text either. Her profile disappeared the next day. Not unmatched, just gone. I still think about it. About how easy it would have been to play along. To laugh it off. To pretend it wasn't a big deal and just kiss her and get my keys back. But something about the way she looked at me, like she was watching a scene unfold in her head, it didn't feel flirty. It felt calculated. I don't know if she does this to everyone, or if she picked me for a reason, but I keep my keys in my pocket now, and I don't set them on the table anymore. Some people flirt with words, others, they flirt with traps. I showed up early like I always do. I don't even know why I still try to be that person, the polite one, the punctual one. Every time I do, I just end up sitting alone watching the door, overthinking every person who walks through it. This time, I was meeting someone named Alex. We'd matched a week earlier. His photos were solid. Cute, not too filtered, a little artsy without trying too hard. He had a soft look, kind eyes, messy hair, a crooked little grin in every pic like he wasn't trying to smile, but couldn't help it. The vibe was quiet boy next door. Harmless. I like that. He messaged first, just hi with a gif of a golden retriever carrying a pizza box. Dumb, but it made me laugh harder than I'd admit. The conversation wasn't deep. We talked about bad TV, favorite takeout, how glitter is basically permanent once it's in your stuff. He had that dry, one-liner kind of humor that sneaks up on you. I liked it. I liked him. So when he asked me for coffee, I said yes. The cafe was small, tucked between a florist and a nail bar. Cozy in a slightly mismatched way, chipped mugs, flickering light bulbs, indie music on repeat. It smelled like cinnamon and espresso. I got there 10 minutes early, ordered a tea, and claimed a table by the window. And then I waited. At exactly 2:12 p.m., someone walked in who kind of looked like him. Sort of. Same hair color, similar jawline, but taller, brawner, older. Like someone had taken the Alex from the pictures and hit fast forward 10 years, maybe added 50 pounds of muscle. He scanned the room with a confidence that didn't match the guy I had been chatting with. His eyes landed on me. Without hesitation, he came straight over. I stood halfway unsure. He smiled. The smile was wrong. Too wide, too sharp, rehearsed. He sat down before I could speak. "I'm Alex Upgrade," he said. I froze. He leaned back casually like this was the most normal introduction in the world. "I'm his older brother. He couldn't make it. But don't worry, you scored better." I laughed nervously, waiting for the punchline. A prank? Maybe. Some bad attempt at humor. But his face stayed flat, except for that smile, stretching too wide across his face. "Where's Alex?" I asked carefully. He shrugged. "Home. He's not really cut out for this kind of thing. But me, I am." I stayed standing, tea still in hand, staring like an idiot. My brain scrambled trying to fit this into something that made sense. But he just kept talking. Ordered a black coffee without looking at the menu. Launched into stories about him and Alex as kids, competing for attention, racing bikes, fighting over who got the bigger bedroom. He told me how he always won. He described his job in construction, how he wasn't soft like his brother. Said I'd appreciate a man who actually shows up. The way he looked at me wasn't flirtatious. It was evaluative, clinical. He pointed out my height, my hair, my clothes, called my outfit a safe choice. Told me I looked shorter than expected, but still cute. Every comment made me feel smaller. I sat down mostly out of fear of making a scene. Only 2 other customers were in the cafe. The baristas were busy behind the counter. My mind told me, stay calm, stay quiet, don't escalate. Write it out for 5 minutes, then leave. That's when he pulled out his phone. My stomach turned cold. On the screen were screenshots, our chat, mine and Alex's. Every message, every gif, every stupid joke about glitter, word for word. "I've read it all," he said. "Alex lets me practice with his matches sometimes." My throat went dry. "Where is Alex?" I asked again, slower this time. Another shrug. "Doesn't matter," he shares. "He's not really built for women like you, but me. I get it. I know what you like better than he does." I could barely breathe. My legs moved before my brain caught up. I grabbed my bag and stood. "This isn't okay," I said, louder than I meant to. He just leaned back, smiling like a cat with a trapped bird. "You're scared because you feel the connection. Don't worry. You'll see." My pulse roared in my ears. I walked out fast, barely seeing the door, barely seeing the street beyond. My tea sloshed in the cup, my hand shaking so bad I nearly dropped it. He didn't follow, at least not immediately. I turned the corner, phone already out, blocked Alex's number on autopilot. My hands trembled so much I almost hit the wrong button. Then I blocked his Bumble profile, reported it. Every option they offered, inappropriate behavior, impersonation, harassment. I called my best friend, voice breaking before I even finished the first sentence. Told her everything as I power walked down the block, checking over my shoulder every few steps. That night, I shut down all my socials, changed usernames, new passwords, the whole digital cleanse. And then the message came. From a number I didn't recognize. "You missed out." That was it. I blocked it immediately, but the damage was already done. My skin crawled. I lay awake until dawn, staring at my phone, waiting for the next number, the next message, the next twist. I don't know if Alex was ever real. I don't know if I was talking to one person or both the whole time. Was it a game they played? A hobby? Did Alex exist at all, or was Alex just to mask this man more until he decided to step out and introduce himself? I'll never know. What I do know is that those screenshots didn't feel new. He rehearsed this the same way he rehearsed that smile. I wasn't the first girl he'd shown them to. And I won't be the last. The date started off fine. Not amazing, not awkward, just regular. Her name was Zoe. We matched on Hinge. She had one of those overly aesthetic profiles, perfect lighting, trendy outfits, slightly smug captions. She gave high maintenance but fun vibes, which usually isn't my type, but she had this charm that made it hard to tell if she was joking or just brutally honest. Her first message was literally, "You look like someone who drinks oat lats and apologizes too much." I said she wasn't wrong. We chatted for a few days. It was all kind of fast-paced and flirty. She was the type that replied instantly with full energy and no punctuation. I liked it. It kept me on my toes. We agreed to meet for drinks at this rooftop place in the city. Somewhere she picked, obviously. It was one of those places that looked like it belonged on someone's Instagram story. The lead signs on the walls, drinks served in jars with flowers floating in them. You couldn't just walk in wearing anything. I had to dig out my nice shoes. She arrived 10 minutes late wearing heels and sunglasses, even though the sun was already down. Walked in like she owned the whole top floor. She looked around, spotted me, and gave a lazy wave like we were already friends. When she sat down, she complimented my shirt and immediately said she hated the music playing. Then she ordered a cocktail and told me she's been in detox, but this one doesn't count. I smiled and went along with it. Figured maybe she just had that chaotic sense of humor. First 20 minutes were fine. She was talkative, kind of all over the place. Told me 3 random facts about herself before even asking what I did for work. One of them was that she dated a guy who looked like Timothée Chalamet but was terrible in every other way. Another was that she once broke up with someone via a food delivery note. I laughed. She didn't. She wasn't joking. She asked me if I was more emotional or logical. I said somewhere in the middle. She rolled her eyes and said I looked more like a feeler. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just drank my stupid flower jar. Then, halfway through her second cocktail, she pulled out her phone and opened FaceTime. I figured she was just checking something. Maybe texting a friend or taking a photo of the view. But no. She FaceTimed her ex. Right there at the table. She tilted the screen so he could see both of us and said she wanted him to see who measured up better. I thought I misheard her. I stared at the screen. He was just some guy in a hoodie sitting in his room, blinking like he wasn't even sure what was happening. She smiled, pointed at me with her thumb, and said something like, "This is the new one. Thoughts?" I waited for the joke. There wasn't one. I sat there like an idiot while her ex laughed awkwardly on the other end and said I looked normal. She asked if I seemed more stable than him, and the guy said probably. She laughed again and said, "We'll see." Then she ended the call, like nothing happened. She looked at me, sipping her drink like it was water, and asked if that freaked me out. I didn't even answer. My jaw was just hanging open. I tried to laugh it off like I was being a good sport, but inside, my stomach was doing backflips. I felt like I was suddenly in a competition I didn't sign up for. She asked if I wanted to see a photo of him shirtless just for comparison. I said no. She showed me anyway. I couldn't tell if she was trying to get a reaction or if she genuinely thought this was normal behavior. Then she said something like, "It's important to know if someone can handle me." At that point, I wasn't even mad. I was just stuck in this weird limbo where I didn't know how to exit without making it worse. I excused myself to the bathroom, took the long way there, stood in the hallway staring at a fake plant thinking, do I just leave? Do I ghost this date in real life? But I didn't. I went back to the table, because I'm apparently too polite for my own good. She was already on her third cocktail, talking to the bartender now. Said she was trying to guess his zodiac sign. When I sat down, she looked at me and said I passed the first test. First test. Like there were more. I told her I had to go soon, that I had an early shift. She pouted and said she thought I was cooler than that. I paid for my drink, didn't argue when she didn't offer a split. She didn't say goodbye when I stood up, just scrolled on her phone and said, "Text me when you get home, maybe." I didn't. I unmatched her on the walk to the train station. Blocked her number. Turned off my location sharing. Came home and sat in silence for a bit trying to process what the hell just happened. I had some weird dates before, but none where I felt like a contestant on some live personal game show. I wasn't a person to her. I was just a new variable. A walking measuring stick for whatever story she's still living in. I almost said no to dessert. I was full, the date was already dragging, and I just wanted to go home and take off my boots. But he insisted, said the tiramisu was life-changing. I didn't want to be rude, so I agreed. That's the only reason I ended up in his car. His name was Brian. We matched on some throwaway app I downloaded during a bout of boredom. He was tall, clean-shaven, had one of those pictures where he's holding a dog and another in front of a gym mirror. Nothing weird. Nothing red flaggy. He messaged me first. Said I looked like I had library girl energy. I had no idea what that meant, but I said thanks anyway. The chats were okay. Surface level. He made a few jokes, asked me about my favorite type of food, told me he'd just gotten out of something complicated, but was in a better place now. Again, nothing that raised alarms. He picked a restaurant, Italian. Not a chain, but not fancy either. Just kind of in between. I got there first. He showed up a few minutes later, wearing a black jacket and cologne that smelled like cinnamon gum. He greeted me like we already knew each other, leaned in too close, called me trouble before I even sat down. I laughed off. Dinner was fine, mostly. He talked a lot about himself, his job, his last relationship, how he hated living in the city but had to because of the grind. Every time I tried to talk about something small, music, uni, random things, he steered it back to him. He wasn't rude, just intense. Kept complimenting me in this weird way, like he was trying to convince me I was different from the girls he usually meets. I started mentally checking out somewhere between the second breadstick and his story about getting into a fistfight over a parking space. I told him I was probably gonna head out after dessert. He said no, he'd drive me. That it was too cold for buses. That it wasn't safe at night. That he wanted to. Again, I didn't want to be rude, so I agreed. The parking lot was mostly empty. I got into the passenger seat of his matte black car. It had this giant touchscreen in the middle and air fresheners clipped to every vent. As soon as he started the engine, the music came on loud, bass-heavy stuff that didn't match the mood at all. I gave him my address. He nodded. But when we pulled out of the lot, he turned away from the direction of the city. At first, I thought he was avoiding traffic, maybe looping around to take a different route. I watched the street signs for a while, waited for something familiar. But then I saw the on-ramp coming up, the one that led out of town. And he took it. I asked where he was going. He smiled and said something about taking the scenic way. I said that didn't make sense. He laughed like I was being dramatic. I started feeling sick. My stomach got tight. My throat was dry. I asked again, firmer this time, where we were going. He said he just wanted to talk a bit more. Said he liked driving and vibing. I told him I wanted to go home. He kept driving. Miles started ticking by. Streetlights got farther apart. Houses turned into trees. My heart was thumping now, fast and heavy. I told him to pull over. He didn't. Said we were already out here, and it might as well chill. That's when I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. I looked at my phone, but of course, I'd left it in my jacket in the back seat, zipped up, out of reach. I tried to stay calm. I didn't want to yell or set him off. I just kept saying I needed to go home, that I had to be up early, that someone was waiting on me, that I wasn't feeling well. Still, he kept driving, one hand on the wheel, one arm resting on the window, like this was just some relaxing night drive. I started thinking of every scenario. What would happen if I grabbed the wheel? If I yanked the keys? If I opened the door while moving? I didn't know how fast we were going. It felt like too much too quick. Eventually, I just snapped. I said I'd throw up in his car if he didn't stop. That made him pause. He asked if I was serious. I said yes. Dead serious. He cursed under his breath and pulled off to the side. The second the car stopped, I unbuckled, launched myself into the back seat, and grabbed my jacket. My hand hit my phone. I yanked it out and jumped out the door, slamming it behind me. We were on some quiet road. No buildings, no signs. Just trees and a distant hum of traffic from somewhere far away. I stayed outside the car, phone in hand, shaking. I told him I was calling a friend to come get me. He told me to relax. Said I was overreacting. Said I was making this awkward now. I didn't care. I called a friend and dropped my location. I stayed on the line out of the car while he sat there in silence for a full minute. Then he swore again, threw the car into drive, and peeled off down the road, tires skidding slightly on the shoulder. I didn't go home that night. I stayed at my friend's, didn't sleep. His profile disappeared the next morning. No text. No apology. Just gone. I keep thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't forced him to stop. If I hadn't lied about throwing up. If I hadn't gotten my phone back in time. If he hadn't hesitated. Every now and then, I still see that car model on the road. Matte black, tinted windows, oversized speakers, and my chest tightens like a seatbelt yanking itself across my ribs. It was one of those dates where things almost felt normal. We met on Bumble. Her name was Serena. Blonde streaks in her hair, green eyes. All her pics looked slightly off-center, like someone else had taken them in a hurry. She had this cool girl energy, like she knew what she wanted, but not in a stuck-up way, just confident. Her messages were chill, lots of lulls and voice notes. She made fun of my music taste, called me a walking playlist from 2014, and for some reason I liked that. She said she hated bars and wanted to meet somewhere low-key. Suggested an outdoor food market near the park. I figured why not. We met around 6:30. She showed up in this oversized hoodie, cargo pants, and boots that made way too much noise for how soft she walked. She had this calmness about her, but also kept looking around like she was checking exits. I figured maybe she was just socially anxious or paranoid. I mean, most of us are at this point. The food market was decent. We shared dumplings and some weird neon slush drink that tasted like watermelon soap. She kept asking questions. Nothing deep, just have you ever been here? And what's your worst date? Kind of stuff. I felt relaxed. She laughed a lot. She touched my arm when I said something dumb. At one point, she offered me a bite of her empanada and held it up to my mouth. It felt flirty, not forced. Then around 8:15, she asked if I wanted to check out another spot. I said sure. I figured she meant a bar or a dessert place, but she smiled and said she'd drive. Said she had a van and that it was parked around the corner. That gave me pause. I offered to just meet her there, but she insisted. Said parking was bad and the place was kind of hidden. That we might as well go together. Again, I didn't want to seem rude, so I agreed. She led me to a plain white van parked in a side street. No stickers, no logos, no back windows. Just this kind of anonymous vehicle that felt like it belonged in a movie about people disappearing. She opened the passenger door and told me to hop in. The second I sat down, something felt wrong. The inside of the van was stripped down. No cup holders, no glove box, no center console. It smelled like air freshener and metal, and there were no interior handles on the doors. Not just the passenger side. None. Back doors, side doors, even the one next to me, just a clean metal panel where the handle should have been. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery van. Maybe she worked for some company and just borrowed it. But the more I looked around, the less that made sense. There was nothing in the back, no shelves, no boxes, just a yoga mat rolled up and duct taped shut. She climbed in, shut her door, and locked it with this thunk that echoed. Then she turned to me and smiled like nothing was weird. She started driving. I sat there, stiff, trying to act normal. We pulled onto the main road, but she didn't say where we were going, just kept humming this off-key tune under her breath and tapping her fingers against the steering wheel. I asked what the place was called. She said it was a chill spot. Didn't give a name. Said it was about 20 minutes out of town. That's when I started checking my pockets. Phone, still with me. Keys? Yep. I stared at the passenger door, running my hand along the edge. Still no handle. I asked again where we were going. She gave this weird smile and said, "Relax. You'll like it." I asked if she could pull over real quick so I could call someone. She didn't respond. She just kept driving. I tried to play it cool. Said I thought I left something back at the market. She said we'd swing back later. I laughed nervously and reached for the window switch. Broken. Or maybe disabled. At that point, we were off the main road, into darker streets. Fewer lights, less traffic. I told her I wasn't feeling well, that I might be sick, that I needed to get out. She kept humming. Didn't say a word. I reached across and tried to unlock the door manually. It didn't move. She looked at me and said, Dead serious. You're freaking out for no reason. My heart was pounding now. I pretended to get a phone call. Held the phone to my ear. Spoke loud, hoping maybe she'd get nervous. I said something like, yeah. I'm in the van now, just heading there, yeah, tracking's on. Still nothing from her. Then I opened my phone and turned on a voice memo. I placed it on my leg, still recording, and made sure she saw it. That got her attention. She stared at me for a second, then pulled over. Sudden, no warning, just jerked the wheel and skidded to the side of the road. She hit the unlock button. Didn't say a word. Just stared at me with this flat expression. I got out fast. I didn't run, I just walked fast, phone still recording, part in my throat. I didn't look back until I was 3 blocks away. By the time I turned around, the van was gone. I never saw her again. Her profile was deleted the next day. Not unmatched. Gone. I don't know what she had planned. I don't want to know. But I still think about the fact that I almost said yes to dessert instead. Almost let my guard down fully. Almost went 20 more minutes into whatever direction she was taking me. All I know is, no more vans. I didn't even want to go. I was in that post-breakup slump where dating feels more like homework than excitement. Every swipe just felt like reruns of the same 3 guys. Gym selfie guy, guy with a fish, guy with a kid woos, not his. I'd been eating cereal for dinner, staying in bed too long, scrolling out of boredom, not hope. So when Jordan with the glasses messaged me something dumb, but harmless, tell me your worst joke, I'll match the energy, I answered. And that's how this whole mess started. He looked fine in his pictures, plaid shirts, a beach selfie, one mirror shot where the flash blocked half his face. A little awkward, but awkward in that approachable way. Not intimidating, not try hard. His bio was short, but he typed in full sentences. He used punctuation. He didn't ask me what I was into at 2 a.m., already better than 90% of the competition. We texted for a few days. He worked in IT, but he hated tech bros. He liked weird indie films, old video games, claimed Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was underrated if you watch it twice. I mentioned this little cafe downtown that makes decent iced matcha. He said it was his favorite too. So we picked Friday. Daytime. Neutral. Chill. When I walked in, he was already there. Sitting by the window, fiddling with his phone. He looked just like his pictures, which felt like a miracle. Same glasses, same crooked posture, same shy smile. His hair was messier in person. His socks didn't match, and when he stood up, he knocked his water glass right over. Sorry, he laughed, clumsy and self-deprecating. I'm nervous. That, weirdly, made me relax. Nervous guys were easier than cocky ones. The first 15 minutes were good, easy even. He asked questions, seemed genuinely interested. Told me stories about work, clients who thought Wi-Fi ran out like milk, a coworker who claimed to be allergic to Bluetooth. I laughed at that one. He laughed too. A little too long. I ignored it. People laugh weird when they're nervous. God knows I do. We ordered drinks, me an iced matcha, him a black coffee. That's when the air shifted. 1 second, he was mid-sentence about some B-movie he liked. The next, his words just stopped. His eyes glazed, unfocused. You okay? I asked. He leaned forward, swaying slightly. Feel dizzy, he murmured. And then he collapsed. Face down on the table. His coffee spilled, spreading across the wood like a dark stain. His glasses clattered to the floor. Jordan, I said, half standing. Nothing. My heart leaped to my throat. I shook his shoulder lightly at first, then harder. Jordan, hey, are you okay? No response. The cafe suddenly felt smaller. The hum of conversations dimmed, replaced by the rush of blood in my ears. A man at the next table leaned over. You need help. Yes, I stammered. I think he fainted. I don't know what to do. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. Dialed 911. My voice shook as I told the dispatcher. A man in his 20s collapsed at a cafe, unresponsive. Is he breathing? The operator asked. I leaned down, face close to his. That's when I heard it. A muffled snort. And then he lifted his head and exploded with laughter. Not nervous chuckles, not embarrassed giggles. Deep, body-shaking laughter. He slapped the table, wiped tears from his eyes, tried to speak between wheezes. The cafe froze. Every pair of eyes locked on us. I was still holding the phone. The dispatcher's voice buzzed faintly in my ear, asking if everything was okay. Jordan looked up at me, grinning ear to ear. Real ones always call 911, he said. Gasping for air, you passed the test. The world tilted. What? I whispered. You passed, he repeated like this was some game. Most people just shake me and freak out. But you called. That's how you know it's real. The manager appeared at our table, expression tight. Is everything all right here? Jordan beamed. Yeah, just a joke. A joke. I told the dispatcher it was a false alarm, that he was conscious now, that I was sorry. My face burned as I hung up. Jordan still grinned at me like we were sharing the best inside joke in the world. I wasn't smiling, I couldn't. The eyes of strangers bored into me, pitying, judgmental. My chest was tight, my skin hot, my hands clammy. I grabbed my bag. You mad? Jordan asked, almost teasing. I didn't answer. I just walked out, straight down the street, anywhere but there. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Jordan, it was just a bit. You clearly didn't get it. Jordan, you failed the second half by leaving too. Blocked, deleted, unmatched. But I couldn't stop shaking. That night, lying in bed, curiosity gnawed at me. I reverse searched his photos. It took some digging, but eventually I found a Twitter account with his face. Inactive for almost a year, but not empty. Clips, videos. Jordan doing the exact same thing. In restaurants, at bars, and parks. Slumping forward, pretending to faint, letting women panic while his hidden phone recorded the whole thing. Their frantic voices captured, their faces caught in the reflection of a spoon or a window. One clip was captioned. She screamed and ran out. Classic. Another didn't even check if I was breathing. Fail. My stomach churned. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't awkward humor. It was rehearsed, scripted, a performance he'd done again and again, collecting reactions like trophies. And I'd been the next act in his little show. I closed the laptop, bile rising in my throat. What stuck with me most wasn't even the videos. It was his face when he lifted his head, laughing. The way he looked at me, not like a person, not like a date. Like a prop. A puppet in his routine. And somewhere out there, he probably still thinks I failed. But he's wrong. He failed at pretending to be a decent human being. So yeah, this story still messes with me. I've been on a lot of weird dates, especially after I got back into apps during a slow work month. I was just trying to distract myself, honestly. Swiping without thinking. Talking to random girls like it was a game. But this one wasn't a game. This one was real. And it flipped so fast, I didn't even have time to process it until it was already over. It started normal. Her name was Marissa. Pretty, but not in a flashy way. Kind of an old school vibe, red lipstick, black hair up in a bun, some kind of vintage filter on every pic she posted. She had a bunch of artsy photos of books, plants, rings on her fingers, all that. Said she was into classic values and high standards. I remember reading that and rolling my eyes, but I still messaged her. She replied quick, spoke super properly. Not in a fake way. More like someone who's used to being taken seriously. She said she liked Italian food and didn't drink much, so we agreed to go to this pasta place in a quiet part of town. Not a chain. More like one of those tucked-away family-run restaurants that has candles on every table and smells like garlic and wine the second you walk in. I got there early, which I never do, but traffic was too good. I sat at a table by the window, half watching people walk by, half scrolling on my phone. She walked in right on time. Straight posture. All black outfit. She looked even better than her photos, honestly. Something about the way she carried herself felt serious. I stood up and said hi. She just smiled, sat down, and folded her hands on the table. From the jump, she didn't waste time. No small talk. No awkward giggling. She asked me stuff that felt like an interview. Do I believe in loyalty? How do I handle betrayal? What would I do if someone broke my trust? I thought maybe she was joking. I kind of laughed and gave vague answers, hoping she'd loosen up. She didn't. She didn't even touch her phone. No looking around, no distractions. She looked straight at me the whole time. I asked her what she did for work, and she said something vague like contract consulting, but didn't elaborate. She kept going back to relationship stuff. Said people nowadays take love lightly. Said commitment should be sacred. I nodded and smiled a lot, trying not to look like I was zoning out. Anyway, halfway through dinner, right after the bread basket got refilled, she reached down into her bag, pulled something out, and calmly placed it on the table. It was a revolver. Small, silver, looked old. I didn't process it at first. I blinked, thought maybe it was fake, like a toy or some weird accessory. Then she casually turned it, pointed it upward, and held it like she'd done it 100 times before, just aiming it at the ceiling like she was checking for leaks or something. No big reaction, no raised voice, no warning. She said something along the lines of how she doesn't go anywhere without protection. My throat went dry, like completely. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe right. I just sat there, frozen. My mind was screaming to act normal, but every part of my body was telling me to get up and leave. She saw my face and gave this slow little smirk, like I'd passed a test or something. Then she lowered it, slipped it right back into her purse like she'd just shown me a new pair of sunglasses. The waiter came by right after. She smiled at him like nothing happened and asked for more lemon water. I was still sitting like a statue. That's when I realized something was really off. Like, not just off in the okay, maybe she's intense way, but off in the this might not end well for me kind of way. I looked around. A couple at the far end of the restaurant was laughing. No one else had seen it. She did it quick. Smooth. Quiet. The music in the place was soft and jazzy, no sharp beats to draw attention. Just this weird, steady rhythm while I sat across from someone who thought bringing a gun to dinner was totally normal. I wanted to leave, but I didn't know how. She was watching me. Not in a crazy wide-eyed way. Just observing, measuring my reactions. Every movement I may have felt too loud. I tried to finish my food, just to have something to focus on. My fork scraped a plate and echoed in my ears. I barely tasted anything. She kept talking about how the world was dangerous, how people don't take responsibility for their own safety. Said she learned young not to rely on others. I kept nodding, smiling when she smiled, pretending like I was super interested in whatever story she was telling, even though I was sweating through my shirt. When the check came, she didn't even look at it, just tossed a folded 50 pounds note on the tray and stood up, told me she'd drive me back to the station. I lied and said I drove myself. She stared at me for a second, too long, then nodded like she didn't buy it but didn't care. I waited until she walked out first, let a full 2 minutes pass, then I dipped out the back. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for an hour just trying to breathe, scrolled through our texts, wondered if there were signs I missed, looked up the name she gave me. Nothing came up. Her profile was gone by the time I checked. I still think about how calm she was. How she didn't do it to scare me, not really. She did it to show me something, like she was letting me peek behind the curtain, just enough to mess with my head. And yeah, it worked.